What's up, everyone? Welcome to your astrological forecast for the month of September. So if you want to follow along, you can look in the comment section below and you can download your own chart, see how these transits pertain to you on the individual level. These forecasts are generally read for the collective, so it could show up quite differently for the individual depending on what's going on in your own personal birth chart. Of course, remember that these astrological forecasts are my personal opinion, my personal perspective. No astrological forecast is free from bias. So look at these transits, look at these forecasts with an open mind and take what works for you and leave what doesn't. So let's get started for the month of September. So we started off September 1st with Mars in Gemini, sextile Jupiter in Aries. And this is a pretty positive transit. So it opens up new opportunities. It's a good time to start a new project, launch a new business. Physical energy is pretty high. So when we moved into the month of September, we could have entered it on a pretty positive note because there were some pretty positive transits at the very beginning of the month, and the tail end of August was a little shaky, a little dicey, especially with that new moon in Virgo because it was a little bit more intense than normal. So at the beginning of the week, you might have felt a little uneasy, a little unsettled, and then moving into the latter half of the week, it was a little bit more positive. On September 2nd, we had Mercury opposing Jupiter, which again, it's pretty good feeling, pretty optimistic transit. The only thing that we needed to be mindful of is not losing the precision and attention to detail because that can happen pretty easily with this transit. But overall, we should have been feeling pretty good about ourselves. September 3rd, Mercury is trine Mars, so it's a good time for mental hard work. It is actually the day I'm recording this, so you'll have more energy than usual and have the ability to tackle difficult problems. And it's also a really good time to speak your mind and express yourself freely. On September 5th, we have Venus entering Virgo at 12:05 a.m. And so when Venus enters the sign of Virgo, we're able to express our love through acts of service and kind gestures. So we're really more willing to support loved ones. Virgo is that earth sign, so it's sensual, but it's also practical. And because Virgo is practical, what we indulge in needs to make sense. Otherwise, there's a tendency to feel guilty. So we really need to kind of understand what we're doing or why we're doing it because it ends up, we need to understand the plan and we need to understand the motive basically. So offering a helping hand to those in need can be very fulfilling while Venus is in Virgo. The only shadow side of this energy is that we can be overly critical of our loved ones. And the only reason that we can be overcritical of loved ones is because Virgo holds extremely high expectations for themselves. So we can hold really high expectations for ourselves, and then we can expect those same high expectations for other people. So just being mindful of that, being mindful that we're not projecting our own expectations onto other people. On September 9th, we have Mercury stationing retrograde at 11:38 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know, we don't like Mercury retrograde, but I promise it's nothing to fear. Use this time to go inward and focus on who you are and what you want to be, and really get clear on how you communicate. So get clear on what you're working towards, what's working, what's no longer working. Of course, we have themes around communication, technology, and travel because that is what Mercury rules. So it's likely that we will experience some form of miscommunication within our romantic relationships, but it could also lead to arguments or conflicts. So just being mindful of that and bringing a focus to what we can no longer ignore. So if there's been a situation within our relationships, within our romantic relationships that we haven't been addressing, we've been ignoring, we will no longer be able to ignore it. It will rise to the surface. Also be mindful that when Mercury stations retrograde, that resurfacing of exes is pretty common. And this is a time for closure, not reconciling. So be mindful that if those exes are trickling in, sometimes we broke up for a reason. So keeping an open mind about that and seeing if you can find that closure instead of seeking that comfort when we feel alone, if that makes sense. On September 23rd, Mercury retrograde is going to re-enter the sign of Virgo, and Mercury rules Virgo, so it's a pretty happy placement, but we can of course expect like those traditional delays and typos, miscalculations, misplacements when Mercury re-enters Virgo. So just being mindful of that. On September 10th, we have the full moon in Pisces, and the full moon in Pisces is going to increase our level of sensitivity and open-heartedness. So the full moon is going to connect with Neptune, and Neptune is Pisces ruler, but it's also the planet of escapism and illusion. So it can intensify our desire to escape reality. We can also view our situations, our relationships, etc., all those things through rose-colored glasses wherever Neptune, Pisces is involved, seeing only what we want to see. So being mindful of that. Of course, daydreaming is not a problem. Escapism is not a problem as long as we bring ourselves back down to reality eventually. The full moon in Pisces can also bring us creativity, can bring us some deep healing, and a willingness to dive deeper into the unknown. Pisces represents the ocean, so it's this like vast, boundless, and connected to everything. It's the dreamer, it's mystical, it's impressionable, it's tender, it's passive, it's poetic. And ruled by Neptune, the planet of dream, spirituality, and illusion, this full moon is actually going to help us move beyond surface level stuff. So reaching the subconscious layers of our mind and bringing us higher awareness and more compassion and kindness collectively. Pisces is also the final sign of the zodiac, so it actually embodies all the signs, reminding us that we are all connected, and it's the ultimate shift into oneness, because we are ultimately all connected, as cheesy as that might sound, but we are all connected as beings, and so it brings a little bit more compassion, a little bit more of that embodiment of universal love, forgiveness, and understanding. And of course, water is associated with the sign of Pisces. And if we think about water, about how it flows in and out, it's kind of learning to go with the flow and letting your thoughts flow. So we have this idea that our wandering mind is not a good thing, especially when we think about meditation. We always think that a wandering mind isn't good, but it's actually so important for our mind to wander. That's where we get our creative ideas. That's where we start to dream a little bit more. And it's actually really, really healthy for our mind to wander. It's healthy for us to get a little bored and let our mind drift where it wants to drift. So work on letting go how you expect life to be and just start accepting how it is. So letting yourself uncover the true beauty of life, letting yourself experience the process, and knowing that there's no good or bad experiences. It's simply opportunities for us to learn and evolve. A quote that I really love, especially when it comes to the full moon in Pisces, is a quote from Deborah Adele, and it's, "Our expectations keep us captive and often disgruntled, and yet we choose our attachments rather than our freedom." So the full moon in Pisces is really leaning into that freedom and allowing yourself to let go of the attachment of things, the attachment of expectations, and allowing yourself to just be in flow with life. On September 11th, we have the Sun trine Uranus. So this is a pretty good transit for engaging in new activities. It's a really good time to learn more about yourself, broaden your perspective of the world, and we are much more interested in being ourselves and instead of trying to morph ourselves into what people expect us to be. We have heightened intuition here, and it's an excellent time to try something new and step outside of your comfort zone. The only thing to be mindful of is because we will be pretty energetic under this transit, but it can also bring this feeling of restlessness. So being mindful of that restless energy, trying not to make abrupt changes, and allowing yourself to release that energy in a really productive way. On September 15th, we have Saturn square Uranus. This is going to stay there until about October 23rd. So you're going to feel this transit for quite some time. And if you haven't been following along on these forecasts, the Saturn square Uranus has been a transit that's been kind of ongoing for the last couple years. It's the transit that has caused a lot of unease in the world, and it's the transit that we've been experiencing during the pandemic. Good news is that it's coming within a degree of each other, so it's not actually an exact, but you will feel this energy still. You will still feel this energy pretty strongly. I like to think that because we're coming to the end of this transit, we're starting to kind of lay the groundwork for our new foundations, and we're leaving behind what's no longer working, because this transit was facing resistance, obstacles, fears, it's tension within authority, freedom, change, social structures, which we've seen a lot of these last couple of years. But I really do think that it's time to bring about change that we want. And even though it can be hard to deal with the changes, because we might not necessarily have a lot of control over what these changes are, so it can be a very frustrating time, tension, unexpected change that we might not necessarily be welcoming. But it's important to stay open-minded, patient, and flexible, because sometimes what might seem as a challenge, what seem as a change that you don't necessarily want, it can actually be the opportunity you need to kind of release any limiting beliefs or limiting things in your life. This is one of the transits that, I'm not going to lie, I've been a little bit worried about, because it has caused a lot of unrest and a lot of unease in the last couple of years. But I do think that it's a transit that we really needed to kind of like look at our foundation, look at our social structures, and see what's working and what's not working, because there's been a lot of stuff not working. And it's been an interesting transit because Saturn's been in the sign of Aquarius, which is more innovative and it is about freedom, and Saturn is the planet that is a little bit more restricting and is structures, and Uranus, who is normally the freedom, the restless, the unexpected change, has been in the sign of Taurus. That's been again a strong placement, stubborn placement, resisting change. So it's been opposing energy for quite some time, and of course that square aspect is always just not generally pleasant. But what I like about square aspects is that it's change that we can work with, and it's kind of overcoming what's been difficult. And I really hope that in this world and collectively, as we're coming to the end of this transit, that we will start to see those positive changes and start to leave behind what isn't working and start to lay a strong foundation for what we need in our society, in the collective. On September 16th, we do have the Sun opposing Neptune. This makes us more susceptible to confusion, bringing uncertainty and feelings of insecurity. And keep in mind, we also have Mercury Retrograde going on, and we have that Saturn-Uranus square. So this can bring up a lot of stuff, especially a greater sensitivity and awareness of the needs of others. So we're likely to avoid confrontation today because we're not in like a self-assertive mood. And of course, Mercury retrograde kind of slows things down. And when it comes to communication with Mercury retrograde, of course, we want to adopt that like ability to actively listen more because of that tendency to have miscommunication and that sensitivity to others. This is a great day to kind of lean into creativity and spirituality and like slow things down and being mindful of the intentions of others, because our defenses are weakened and we can be easily led astray when the Sun opposes Neptune. So use this day to go inward and use this energy to reflect on your life. On September 16th, we also have Venus square Mars. So this is a heightened sexual awareness, and it can bring some tension within existing relationships. However, that being said, relatively healthy relationships will have little difficulty under this transit. It will be really only relationships that are already having some tension, some conflict, where it's going to bring more awareness to that tension. So it's not the best transit to start a relationship under, as it's unlikely to last long because there is a strong focus on just physical attraction, big focus on lust rather than like the deeper connection of what a relationship requires. So this can be a positive transit for relationships as there is a lot of energy. That being said, however, in like really strong relationships, this can bring a lot of love energy because of that Venus and Mars energy. And of course, Venus is love and beauty. Mars is like sexual attraction, it's aggression. So it's kind of like bringing those two forces together and making that like stronger love connection. So it can really go either way if we're being honest. On September 18th, the sun trines Pluto. So this can bring intense and powerful experiences. It's an opportunity to look within yourselves to determine what motivates you. Remember, the sun is like our vitality, our life force. It's how we express ourselves. And Pluto is the planet of transformation, and it's like death and rebirth. And it's like uncovering the truth. It's uncovering what lies beneath the surface. So what are you seeking in life, and what changes could you make so that your life could run more smoothly? This transit allows for positive transformation to transpire, and it's also an excellent energy to get things done because you have the ability to focus and work really hard. This is also a really excellent transit to dive deeper into a subject or topic and investigate further. So really like get to the truth and uncover deeper meanings. I mean, I always love when Pluto's involved. Maybe not everybody feels this way, but I love the intensity and like the powerful transformation that Pluto can bring, because it's really like this like unearthing. On September 18th, we also have Mercury opposing Jupiter. So this is frequently a transit that brings good feelings and an optimistic energy. I would say exercise a certain amount of caution, as with these two, we need to look at the finer details beyond grand thinking, because Jupiter is expansive, it's abundant, it's that good luck energy, it's like kind of like that boastful energy, and Mercury can be like the trickster. So make sure that you're paying close attention to all aspects of your ideas and don't lose your precision and attention to detail. We did experience this transit at the beginning of the month, so it could have similar themes, but with Pluto and the sun involved there on the same day, we can overlook the finer details. And it's a good time to remain open to the ideas of others, because we can have arrogant behavior. And with Jupiter and Mercury, we can have that like self-righteous attitude. So be mindful of that. Be mindful of how you're engaging. But overall, this transit should leave you feeling pretty good about yourself. On September 19th, we have Venus trine Uranus, so it's a good day for something different. You might want to kind of like step outside of your daily routine because it could feel boring. And we're kind of like seeking a change of pace, because Venus is, again, our values, love, beauty, and Uranus is kind of that restless, unexpected change energy. So when it comes to our values, we're kind of like, I want to step outside of what I know, and I want to try something different. So you're likely seeking new interactions, new engagements. The people that you meet under this transit will likely be different from your usual group of friends, but it can open your mind, open your perspective of the world. Love can begin suddenly under this transit if you're single, but it can also leave just as quickly. So be mindful of that, because Uranus, remember, unexpected change, but unexpected change can also mean that it ends quickly. So this can bring some excitement into your life and bring those unexpected experiences. It's great to expect the unexpected and remain open-minded. And because Venus is here, we can have like an unexpected spark of creativity. So really leaning into your creative nature and allowing those ideas to flow freely. On September 22nd, we enter Libra season at 9:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's also the first day of fall. So it's the autumn equinox. It is when there is an equal amount of light and dark. And Libra is the sign of justice and balance. So it's kind of cool that the sun is entering Libra on the fall equinox, because it's like that representation of the scales, of that balance, of that harmony. And so Libra season offers us the opportunity to find some middle ground. So we're able to meet others halfway. Big themes of compromise and negotiation. And this energy will help you put yourself in someone else's shoes and understand where they're coming from. I love a Libra energy because we are able to step outside of ourselves and we're able to really see where people are coming from. And what I love about Libra energy is it's really being able to be like, we're able to see when people are projecting energy, and we're able to see, okay, I understand why they're behaving this way. I understand why they are this way because I can see where they're coming from, which is really beautiful, because I think we need a little bit more of that energy in our lives. So this is a time to really learn to relax, because after Virgo season can be intense depending on what else is going on in your chart. But Virgo season is all about like fine-tuning your routine, readjusting like what's going to help your overall well-being, your health. It's getting organized. It's kind of like that, like, I am getting organized, I'm rescheduling, I'm getting on top of my things. And Libra season offers us the space to kind of take time for yourself, tend to your needs as well as the needs of others. And it's okay to relax. It's okay to have some downtime. And remember that Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus is all about values and beauty and luxury. And it's like self-care. Take care of yourself. So decision making can be more challenging, of course, wherever Libra is involved because of that association with the scales of weighing all the odds. So we can be self-serving, we can be indecisive. Of course, passive-aggressive behavior can be on the rise under Libra season, and we can be a little bit superficial. So just be mindful of that. Reminder, on September 23rd, Mercury retrograde re-enters the sign of Virgo. So remember, it's going to shift the energy a little bit of the Mercury retrograde. And because Mercury rules Virgo, we can have miscommunication, misplacement, mishaps, all those things, maybe some typos. And it's coming in at 29 degrees, which is a pretty potent energy. So Virgo energy and Mercury will be very strong in the retrograde. So just be mindful of delays, communication, all those fun things. On September 23rd, we also have the Sun conjunct Mercury. So this transit will emphasize the area of your life ruled by Mercury. So make sure that you're looking to see where in your chart Mercury rules. So basically what you want to look at is you want to look at Virgo and Gemini because Mercury rules both those signs. So you want to see where those houses and what houses are occupied by those two signs, because it will give you a better idea of where this transit and where Mercury retrograde in general is going to affect you. And so we're more likely to have more conversations with people, have the ability to get our point across. But remember, because Mercury retrograde is involved with this transit, we need to adopt the ability to actively listen and not only just speak. Because under this transit, we're more inclined to talk rather than listen. Remember, under Mercury retrograde, it's very, very important that we're mindful of miscommunication. That being said, this is generally a good day to take care of paperwork as our mind will be much clearer and more focused. Just remember that anything under Mercury retrograde that you want to go over a couple times, proofread, double check, triple check, make sure that all your make sure that everything is in order, because we have a tendency to overlook these things and we're more likely to have mishaps and typos under Mercury retrograde. So be mindful of what others are saying. There could be really important information and cues from others that concern your personal plans. So try not to overlook that. It is a good time to make plans for the future. Again, be mindful. Mercury retrograde, potential travel. There is restless tension here. And people always say like not to travel during Mercury retrograde. And I actually think it's a good idea to travel because things are generally slower. The only thing that you need to be mindful of when you're traveling is that just make sure that when you're booking travel that you are triple checking things, because make sure that you have the right dates, right times, all those things, and just expect delays. But you know what? In our society, I think we need to get better at delays and timing and always being in a rush and all that thing. And Mercury retrograde can remind us that we need to slow down. On September 24th, we have Venus opposing Neptune. So this transit has many possibilities, some good, some difficult. So it can, of course, bring some dreamy and romantic energy, but it can also make us more vulnerable to deception when Neptune's involved and Venus is our values. So be mindful of what others are asking of you. Be mindful of what people are trying to sell you. Being mindful of that energy, because people can be trying to take advantage of, and we're more susceptible to this energy because of the Venus-Neptune opposition. So unrealistic ideas can lead to disappointment, especially when it comes to our loved ones, close relationships. And Neptune is illusion and deception. So make sure that you are paying attention to all the details and not overlooking or glossing over anything. This transit, however, does have the potential to produce beautiful romantic experiences. Just remember that nothing lasts forever and that we can't depend on it. So allow yourself to enjoy these beautiful romantic experiences, but don't depend on it within your relationship. Because remember, in everything, change is constant. We have that ebb and flow. We need to have moments of beautiful things, but we can't expect everything, every experience to be beautiful and romantic. On September 25th, we have Venus trine Pluto. This transit intensifies our emotional expression throughout the day and makes our relationships a little bit more intense. So we can feel love for someone quite strongly under this energy, bringing that intensity to our relationships. And it also stimulates our sexual desire. So love is expressed through the mind, emotions, and body. So we're really able to intensify our sexual desire through our emotions. So new relationships built under this influence will likely be intense, which is not a bad thing. This could actually build a pretty strong relationship, but it's important to be mindful that eventually this intensity, this sexual desire will wear off in a long-term relationship. This can also spark creativity, inspiration, and it's the ability to reveal the inner depths of our soul through art, which, like, who doesn't love that? I love that expression of our art. And then on September 26th, we have the Sun opposing Jupiter. So the positive side of this transit is it's more easily activated than other positions, so it's more cheerful and optimistic. This has the potential to, of course, express positively and negatively. With Jupiter, we always have to be mindful of overindulging, spending too much money, being wasteful, etc., all those things. But on the other hand, we can feel quite courageous to try something new. And this transit can build up our self-confidence. We just need to be mindful of that arrogant energy. We don't want to take that self-confidence too far. This transit also signifies energies coming to head, so reaching a culmination in several areas of your life. So you want to look to see where Jupiter and the Sun, remember Jupiter is in Aries, the Sun is in the sign of Libra. So look to see where these two energies fall in your chart to see where these energies are coming to a head. Stay in control, try not to overextend yourself, and don't make any commitments that you cannot keep. So one of my favorite techniques to use is when somebody asks you to do something, when someone asks you to hang out or commit to a project, I always say, give me a few days, let me think about it before making a decision in that moment. Because in the moment we can feel good about it, but later down the line we can feel overwhelmed by the commitments that we tied ourselves to. We have a few other transits taking place on September 26th. There's actually quite a lot of energy going on. So we have Mercury conjunct Venus, so variety of different effects. It can stimulate our appreciation for beauty, interest in art, poetry, music, etc. And allows you to view all the details of your life with precision, which allows you to understand your life as a whole. We have the ability to freely communicate our feelings of loved ones, and this transit is very much the giving and receiving of love and affection. So traditionally, this transit is favorable for financial and business dealings. Again, be mindful of that Mercury retrograde. September 26th, we also have Mercury trine Pluto. So this is ideal for asking for favors, talking people into things. So be mindful of that. Wanting to understand what goes beneath the surface. It's deep introspection. It also is obsessive nature. So it's a good time to use this energy constructively. So applying mental obsessions to like research or study rather than like something that's like not going to benefit you positively. And it's a good time to look at your inner self and better understand yourself at a deeper level. We also have on the same day Mars trine Saturn. Lots going on September 26th, lots of energy, so it'll be really interesting to see how all of this plays out. Mars trine Saturn generally provides us with patience and willingness to persevere through difficult work. Sometimes the energy of Mars can be difficult to control, leading to like that erratic and compulsive behavior. But when Mars meets up with Saturn in that trine, it's very controlled and allows us to direct our energy more productively. So we're more patient and disciplined in our work and able to meet the demands of the day, which is really exciting because Mars is in the sign of Gemini, and that can be really overwhelming. When it meets up with Saturn, we can be more focused in where we direct our energy. And this transit can also help you get to know yourself better through discipline and hard work, because again, we can feel really scattered when Mars is in Gemini, not being able to focus our energy. But when Saturn helps us out, we're able to kind of get to hard work, discipline, and we're also able to maintain good relationships with authority figures. Tail end of the month is a little sweeter than the beginning of September, as we have the new moon in Libra on September 25th, and we're reminded of the importance of nurturing and tending to ourselves. And remember that new moons are new beginnings. It's a fresh start. It kicks off that new 4-week cycle, and it's an opportunity to reflect, slow down, set intentions for the 4 weeks ahead. And Libra is the sign of relationships. It's a peacemaker, the lovable artist, the diplomat. It's our relationship to others, and it's us as individuals, and being able to look at an individual nature in our relationships. So use this energy to learn about your own identity through your experience with others. And ruled by Venus, Libra's ruled by Venus, the planet of love and beauty, the planet that shows us what we value. So when we're having a new moon in Libra, it brings a focus to what we value in ourselves and in others. And the key word with this sign is balance. So we have to first understand imbalance before we can find that balance, which I think that we forget. We have to really reflect on what areas of our life feel unbalanced so that we can find that balance. So harmony and balance are constant practice. It's consistent. It takes patience. It takes constant attention. So just being mindful of that. Sometimes we feel bad when we feel unbalanced, or our life feels unbalanced, or we aren't aligned with our core values. But Libra season and the new moon in Libra really allows us to reflect on our unique perspectives, our conditioned beliefs, and we can start to understand where our belief system comes from, and then we can start to understand another person's perspective and really start to open our minds and broaden our perspective, and it allows us to really grow and understand ourselves better as individuals, but also as individuals in a collective. But yeah, I love the new moon in Libra, and it also brings a little bit of sweetness. On September 29th, Venus enters Libra. It's a very charming placement for Venus. We're likely to find harmony and balance, but also likely to avoid confrontation. Venus loves to be in Libra, and it is a cardinal air sign. It's always trying to uncover the beauty in every situation, which is beautiful. So you can expect this month to end with love on your mind, and love for yourself and love for other people. We're more willing to compromise and negotiate, and we're more artistic and drawn to beautiful things. So we're seeking balance in our immediate environments and close relationships. The only shadow side of this position is dependency on others, inconsistency. We can see superficiality, so being mindful of those energies. In an attempt to avoid unpleasant situations, we can easily gloss over issues in our relationship. So really be mindful of that, because remember that, yes, you can gloss over deeper issues, you can gloss over conflicts, but eventually they'll come to the surface, and it's better to deal with it than being forced to deal with it. But the month does end on a hopeful note. I will say that on September 30th, we do have that last transit of Mercury opposing Neptune, and this can bring some mental confusion and unclearness. But we're able to perceive things subconsciously, which would usually be filtered out, which is kind of cool. Like, I always love being able to access the subconscious mind. And on some occasions, this can also give individuals spiritual awareness. So it's not necessarily a negative transit. It can just bring some unclearness, which can feel a little bit unsettling in the moment. So try not to make any concrete plans or decisions, and wait a few days for the mind to clear before making any of those commitments. It's not a great day for work, as we'll be a little bit unfocused. Communication can also feel difficult, especially with Mercury retrograde also under our influence. So there can be easily misunderstood, miscommunication. This is a classic transit where we're easily misguided, swindled, tricked, or lied to. So be really mindful of that. And it can also bring feelings of anxiety, confusion, nervousness. So spend some time alone and allow the world to get quiet, and remember to breathe. With that being said, ending off our month on that note, be mindful that when you're taking in the astrological forecast for the month, that there will always be positive and negative energy. And we need to find the nuance in that positive and negative energy, because when we look at it just black and white of positive and negative, we miss that in positive and negative energy, what is positive for me could be negative for you. What's negative for you could be positive for me. So it's all about our outlook and our perspective. So trying to really see beyond what's negative, what's positive, finding the nuance, not looking at every situation from a black and white perspective, because that's not useful, it's not constructive, and starting to open up your mind and opening up your perspective of the world, adopting that flexible attitude, and looking beyond what you already know. So with any energy, with any experience, we can learn and grow, and it's all about how we work with that energy. So yes, things can be more challenging. We can be faced with obstacles, with resistance, but it's all about how we work with that energy and how we decide to move forward. So are we going to sit and wallow, or are we going to stand up, sit up nice and tall, and work through that energy and allow ourselves to grow and learn from these experiences? So yes, the last couple of years have been difficult. Yes, this month we're experiencing that Uranus-Saturn square that has been wreaking havoc, which has been causing confusion, making it really unclear about what our future looks like, making it really hard to make decisions. Yes, we have Mercury stationing retrograde this month. And we have Mars in Gemini, causing a little bit of confusion, but being open-minded about these things and not being like, oh my gosh, blaming everything on Mercury retrograde, blaming everything on that Saturn-Uranus square, and seeing if we can lean into this hopeful, optimistic attitude, because we also need that. We need more of that, and we need to believe that we can make positive changes in the world and that we can move forward in a productive way. So looking at this collective energy, finding how this is individually influencing you and working with that energy. I would love to know your thoughts on the astrological forecast for September. What you're looking forward to, maybe what you're nervous about. It's okay to be nervous about energy. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this month's forecast. Please like, comment, subscribe. And next week, we've got some yoga coming your way. Have a great day, everyone.